Cold, wealthy CEO shocked when he saw his childhood love mopping the floor of his jet. Then the aircraft lurched suddenly, sending Ava stumbling backward. Before she could catch herself, strong hands gripped her shoulders, steadying her against the chest she'd once known as well as her own heartbeat. When was the last time someone's touch made you remember who you used to be? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. 20 years of silence shattered with 3 words. Don't you remember? Lucas Harrington stepped into his private jet's cabin, expecting the usual. Leather seats perfectly arranged, crystal glasses waiting, and complete quiet for his flight to Los Angeles. The cabin glowed warm against Chicago's night sky, city lights twinkling below like scattered diamonds. He loosened his tie, already thinking about tomorrow's merger deal worth $300 million. Then he froze, bent over with a mop, wearing an oversized cleaning uniform that swallowed her small frame. Was a woman he'd recognize anywhere, even after 20 years, even in the dim cabin light, even though everything about this moment felt impossible. Ava Monroe, the same girl who'd shared peanut butter sandwiches with him on dusty Ohio playgrounds. The same girl who'd kissed him under Friday night football lights. The same girl he'd promised he'd marry someday, before his father's promotion ripped him away from everything he knew. She turned at the sound of his footsteps, and their eyes met across the narrow aisle. Her cleaning cloth dropped from trembling fingers. Those green eyes, God, those eyes were exactly the same. Bright as summer grass, wide with shock, and filled with something he couldn't quite read. Recognition, fear, and something else that made his chest tight. Ava. His voice came out rougher than intended. She straightened quickly, smoothing down her uniform with hands that shook slightly. Mr. Harrington, I didn't know this was your flight. Mr. Harrington, like they were strangers. Like she hadn't carved their initials into that old oak tree behind the school. Like he hadn't held her while she cried about her mother working 3 jobs just to keep their lights on. Have you ever locked eyes with someone from your past and felt time stop? Tell me honestly, would you pretend not to know them? Or would you say something? Because right now, watching the girl who once meant everything to him clutch a mop like it could protect her from the past, Lucas felt every single day of those 20 years crash down on him. Don't, she whispered, glancing toward the cockpit where voices murmured about pre-flight checks. Please don't tell anyone you know me. The desperation in her voice hit him like a punch to the gut. This was Ava Monroe, who'd stood up to high school bullies twice her size, who'd tutored half their class in math while working weekends at her uncle's garage, who'd looked him straight in the eye the night before he left and said she'd wait for him, no matter how long it took. Now she was begging him to pretend she didn't exist. Sometimes the people we love most become strangers wearing familiar faces. But what happens when 20 years of questions demand answers at 30,000 feet? The plane engines hummed to life, and Lucas noticed details that made his heart clench. Her wedding ring finger bore the pale mark of a recently removed band. Dark circles shadowed those beautiful eyes. And when she reached for the cleaning supplies, her uniform sleeve slipped just enough to reveal something that made his blood run cold. A jagged scar ran down her forearm, still pink enough to be healing. As turbulence rocked the plane without warning, Lucas reached instinctively to steady her and realized that whatever had happened to Ava Monroe in the past 20 years, it had left marks deeper than anything he could see. The plane wasn't the only thing shaking, so were the lies she'd been telling herself for years. The aircraft lurched suddenly, sending Ava stumbling backward. Before she could catch herself, strong hands gripped her shoulders, steadying her against the chest she'd once known as well as her own heartbeat. Lucas's familiar cologne, cedar and something expensive, filled her lungs, and for one dangerous moment, she was 18 again. Easy, he murmured, his thumbs tracing small circles on her arms through the cheap uniform fabric. I've got you. Those words. He'd said them before, in his father's garage when she'd been crying about her mother's latest illness. In the school parking lot when Tommy Martinez had cornered her about unpaid lunch debts. Always the same steady voice, always the same promise. I've got you. But he hadn't, had he? When it really mattered, where her world fell apart 3 years after he left, Lucas Harrington had been busy building his empire in Silicon Valley. She'd been alone, making choices that still haunted her dreams. "You can let go now," she said, stepping back as the plane steadied. But her body betrayed her, missing his warmth immediately. He didn't move far, staying close enough that she could see the confusion in his dark eyes. "Ava, what happened to you?" "Life happened." She picked up her dropped cleaning supplies, focusing on anything except the way he was looking at her. "Some of us don't get fairy tale endings. You were going to be a lawyer." His voice carried hurt she hadn't expected. "Top of our class, remember? Full scholarship to Georgia State. You had plans. The memories stung. Dreams don't pay for medical bills, and they sure don't keep the lights on when the person you love most needs surgery you can't afford. Plans change. When was the last time someone's touch made you remember who you used to be? Drop a heart if you know that feeling." Lucas sat down in the leather seat across from her cleaning station, completely ignoring the fact that she was supposed to be working. "Tell me what happened. Please, I need to finish up here." She sprayed cleaner on the already spotless side table, scrubbing harder than necessary. "You have important business calls to make, I'm sure. The most important thing in my life, just walk back into it carrying cleaning supplies." His words were quiet, but they hit her like a shout. Everything else can wait. She looked up despite herself, caught by the sincerity in his expression. This was the boy who'd given her his jacket during cold Ohio winters, who'd walked her home every day for 2 years, even though it added 20 minutes to his route, who'd kissed her like she was precious, like she was worth something. Before she could stop herself, the truth slipped out. "I work 4 different cleaning jobs. Airlines, office buildings, hotels. Whatever pays cash." Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. "I need to get home soon. Someone's waiting for me." The change in his expression was immediate. "Someone I have to check on." She stopped herself, panic rising. She'd already said too much. But Lucas was already reaching for his phone. "Let me call you a car. My driver can." "No." The word came out sharper than intended, because there was something at home she could never let him see. Someone whose existence would change everything. She'd spent 10 years hiding her biggest secret, until the boy who knew her best offered her a ride home. "You're not taking the bus at midnight." Lucas's voice carried the same stubborn edge she remembered from when he'd argued with teachers who gave her detention for being late. Back then, it was because she'd been working before school. Something's never changed. Ava clutched her cleaning supplies tighter. "I take the bus every night." "It's fine." "It's not fine." He was already standing, pulling out his phone. "My car is downstairs. 5 minutes and you're home safe." The old Ava would have fought him on this. The 18-year-old girl with fire in her belly and pride in her bones would have walked out of this plane and straight to the bus stop, head held high. But 10 years of struggles had worn down her edges, and honestly, she was exhausted. "Just to the complex," she said finally. "You don't need to walk me up." 20 minutes later, she sat in the passenger seat of his black Mercedes, watching familiar Atlanta streets roll past the window. The leather seats were heated, the radio played soft jazz, and Lucas had draped his suit jacket over her shoulders without asking. It smelled like him, like success and certainty and all the things she'd never quite managed to grab hold of. "I used to practice writing Mrs. Harrington in my notebooks," she admitted, then immediately wished she could take it back. The words had just slipped out, maybe because his car felt like a safe space outside of real life. He glanced over, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "I still have them." Her heart stopped. "What?" "Your notebooks. 3 of them, covered in hearts and doodles, and my last name written in your handwriting." He turned left onto her street, navigating like he'd memorized the route. "I've moved apartments, houses, even cities, but I kept those notebooks in every single place I've lived." Have you ever been terrified that someone would see how far you've fallen? Share your story below. The apartment complex came into view, broken security gate, flickering parking lot lights, kids' toys scattered on patios. Everything about it screamed struggle, and she watched his face carefully for judgment. But Lucas just parked and turned off the engine, waiting. "This is me," she said, reaching for the door handle. "Ava," his voice stopped her. "I know I don't have the right to ask, but are you happy?" The question hung between them like a bridge she was afraid to cross. Happy? She'd forgotten what that word meant. Surviving wasn't the same thing as living, but it was all she'd managed for so long. "I have good days," she said finally. It wasn't a lie exactly. As she opened the car door, a young voice called out from an upstairs window, "Mama, you're home." The blood drained from Lucas's face as he looked up at the child silhouetted in the yellow light. Even from this distance, even in shadows, there was something unmistakably familiar about that small figure. Something that made his hands shake as he gripped the steering wheel. Some secrets are too big to hide in small apartments, especially when they have their father's eyes. "Mama's coming, baby," Ava called up to the window, but her voice cracked on the last word. She couldn't look at Lucas, couldn't face whatever expression was painted across his features right now. "How old?" His question was barely audible. She closed her eyes, feeling the weight of 10 years' worth of decisions settling on her shoulders like stones. "Lucas, please, just go." But he was already out of the car, already following her up the concrete steps that led to her second-floor apartment. His expensive shoes clicked against each step, a sound that seemed impossibly loud in the quiet night. Her hands shook as she fumbled with the keys. Behind the door, she could hear small feet running, excited chatter about Mama being home. The same chatter that had been her lifeline through every difficult day, every impossible choice, every moment when giving up seemed easier than fighting. The door opened, and there he was, Danny Monroe, 9 years old, gap-toothed grin, dinosaur pajamas 2 sizes too small because growth spurts came faster than paychecks. He launched himself into her arms with the enthusiasm that only children possess, completely unaware that his entire world was about to shift. "Mama, I finished my math homework," and Mrs. Rodriguez said I could have ice cream if I was good, and I was good, really good. I helped her carry groceries, and his words stopped mid-sentence as he noticed the stranger standing in their doorway. Danny's head tilted, studying Lucas with the frank curiosity of a child who hadn't yet learned to hide his thoughts. Ava's breath caught in her throat as she watched them look at each other. Same dark hair, same stubborn jawline, same way of narrowing their eyes when concentrating. It was like watching past and present collide in real time. "Who's that, Mama?" The question every parent dreads. The one she'd rehearsed answers for, but never thought she'd actually have to face. Not like this. Not with Lucas standing there, his face pale as moonlight, staring at the boy like he was seeing a ghost. What would you do if you discovered you might be a parent to a child you never knew existed? Tell me in the comments. She swallowed hard, mind racing. "This is Lucas. We knew each other when we were young. Like kid young or teenager young." Danny's matter-of-fact question would have been funny under different circumstances. "Kid young," Lucas answered before Ava could speak. His voice was steady, but she caught the tremor underneath. "Your mama and I grew up together in Ohio." "Cool. I've never been to Ohio. Is it nice?" Danny turned to Ava. "Can I show him my room? I have a new book about planes, and Mama, you always said my daddy was." He stopped, looking between them with sudden understanding that was far too mature for a 9-year-old. The silence stretched until it hurt. "Is he mine?" Lucas's words were directed at her, but Danny answered, "My daddy left before I was born." The boy said matter-of-factly, "But that's okay. Mama says some people aren't ready to be parents yet." Ava's heart shattered and reformed in the same moment. She'd never lied to Danny about his father, but she'd never told him the whole truth either. How could she explain that she'd never even told Lucas she was pregnant? The truth has a way of demanding attention, especially when it's sleeping in the next room. Danny had finally gone to bed after showing Lucas every toy, book, and drawing in his small room. Now Ava sat across from Lucas at her kitchen table, 2 cups of coffee growing cold between them, while the weight of unspoken truths pressed down like a storm about to break. 10 years ago, Lucas said finally, his voice carefully controlled, "That summer before I moved to California for the startup. We had that one night at the lake house. The memory came flooding back, stolen hours while his parents thought he was packing, her mother working a double shift at the diner. Sweet and desperate, and full of promises they both believed they'd keep. You left 2 weeks later. I called. For months, I called your house. Your mom always said you were busy, that you'd call back. His hands were flat on her worn kitchen table, and she could see the tension in his shoulders. I wrote letters, emails. I drove back to Dayton twice looking for you. The accusation in his voice stung because it was fair. She had avoided his calls, had hidden from his letters, had moved to Atlanta without leaving a forwarding address. But not for the reasons he probably thought. I found out I was pregnant 3 weeks after you left. The words came out steady, matter of fact, like she was discussing the weather instead of the moment that changed everything. I was 18, Lucas. 18, scared and alone. His face went white. You should have told me. Told you what? That the girl from the wrong side of town was trying to trap you with a baby? She stood abruptly, needing distance. Your parents already thought I wasn't good enough for you. Your dad made that very clear. My father spoke to you. The pain in his voice made her soften slightly. He came to see me after you left, offered me money to disappear gracefully from your life, said you had a bright future ahead of you, and I shouldn't be selfish enough to ruin it with small-town drama. Lucas was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. When he spoke again, his voice was raw. I would have come back. If you told me about the baby, I would have dropped everything and come back. I know, and that was the problem, wasn't it? She'd known exactly what kind of man Lucas was, even at 19. He would have sacrificed his dreams, his future, his shot at building something extraordinary, all for a girl who wasn't sure she was worth it. Have you ever had to face the consequences of choices you made decades ago? How did you handle it? I loved you enough to let you go, she said quietly. I wanted you to have the life you deserve. His response broke something inside her chest. And I loved you enough to come back, but I was 10 years too late. His phone buzzed against the table, the notification sound cutting through the heavy silence. They both looked down at the screen, where an email waited with results that would change 3 lives forever. DNA results, he said quietly, from that home test kit I bought after we met Danny. Ava's hands trembled as she reached across the table. Are you ready to know for sure? The DNA results arrived on a Tuesday morning that would change 3 lives forever. Lucas sat in his downtown office, the sealed envelope trembling in his hands. Have you ever held a piece of paper that could destroy or rebuild everything you thought you knew about your life? The white envelope felt heavier than any business contract he'd ever signed. Meanwhile, Ava paced her small apartment kitchen, checking her phone every 30 seconds. Danny was at school, unaware that his entire world might shift before lunch. Her heart hammered against her ribs. What if Marcus found out about the test? What if Lucas decided he didn't want the responsibility? The lab technician's voice was calm and professional when Lucas called. Mr. Harrington, the probability of paternity is 99.97%. His phone slipped from his fingers, clattering onto his mahogany desk. Danny was his son. His child had been living 20 minutes away for 8 years, and he'd never known. Lucas drove to Ava's apartment like a man possessed, taking stairs 3 at a time. When she opened the door, her eyes were red from crying. You already know, he said, studying her face. She nodded, stepping aside to let him in. I've known for 8 years, Lucas. Every day, I wanted to call you. Every birthday, every scraped knee, every time he asked about his father. Why didn't you? His voice cracked with years of missed opportunities. Ava's laugh was bitter. You were dating supermodels and buying companies. I was pregnant, broke, and scared. Marcus offered to marry me and give Danny his name. It seemed like the right choice. Lucas moved closer, his hands finding her shoulders. And now, the space between them charged with electricity. Ava's breath caught as his thumb traced her jawline. Now everything's different. Their lips met with 8 years of suppressed longing. This wasn't the gentle kiss of childhood sweethearts. This was desperate, hungry, full of regret and possibility. Lucas's hands tangled in her hair while she pressed against him, feeling his heart race against her chest. "I have money," he whispered against her mouth. "I can fight Marcus. I can protect you both." "It's not that simple." Ava pulled back, her lips swollen. "Marcus has connections. He knows judges, police officers. He'll make my life hell." Lucas's jaw tightened. "Then we disappear. Tonight. All three of us." "You don't understand." Ava's voice dropped to a whisper. "Marcus isn't just angry about the divorce. He's been watching us, following Danny to school. He knows about you." A chill ran down Lucas's spine. "What do you mean?" Before Ava could answer, her phone buzzed with a text message. Her face went white as she read it. "What does it say?" Lucas demanded. With shaking hands, she turned the screen toward him. The message was from Marcus. "Tell your billionaire boyfriend I have photos of him entering your building. Custody hearing is tomorrow. Danny won't be coming home." Lucas felt rage build in his chest like a storm. His son, their son, was being used as a weapon. "We're not running," he said, his voice deadly calm. "We're fighting." And Marcus has no idea what kind of war he just started. Outside, a black sedan sat parked across the street, engine running. The driver's window was tinted, but they both knew who was watching. How far would a desperate father go to protect the family he'd just discovered? The family courthouse felt like a battlefield disguised as justice. Lucas wore his most expensive suit, but it felt like armor that wouldn't protect him from what mattered most. Beside him, Ava clutched a folder of documents, her knuckles white with tension. Have you ever walked into a room knowing someone was about to try to destroy your life? Marcus Williams sat across the aisle with his lawyer, a sharp-faced woman who looked like she ate souls for breakfast. He'd aged poorly since Ava left him, his face bloated and his eyes cold. When he looked at Lucas, his smile was pure poison. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Chun." The judge was younger than Lucas expected, with intelligent eyes that missed nothing. She studied the case file with the focus of someone who understood she was deciding a child's future. "Mr. Williams, you're requesting full custody based on what grounds?" Marcus's lawyer stood smoothly. "Your Honor, Mrs. Williams has been engaging in inappropriate conduct with a man she barely knows, exposing the child to unstable influences." Lucas's fists clenched under the table. His lawyer, David Kim, the best family attorney money could buy, remained calm. "Your Honor, my client, Mr. Harrington, is the biological father of Daniel Williams. DNA results confirm 99.97% probability." David placed the lab report on the judge's desk. He was unaware of his son's existence until recently. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Marcus's face turned red, then purple. "Furthermore," David continued, "Mr. Williams has a documented history of domestic violence against Mrs. Williams, resulting in emergency room visits and police reports. Those charges were dropped." Marcus's lawyer objected. "Because my client was too scared to testify," David replied smoothly. "We have hospital records, photographs, and witness statements." Judge Chun studied the documents. "Mr. Williams, these are serious allegations." Marcus stood up, his voice booming. "She's a liar. She seduced a rich man, and now she's trying to take my son." "Danny isn't your son," Lucas said quietly, but his words carried across the silent courtroom like a gunshot. The judge banged her gavel. "Mr. Harrington, you'll speak when addressed." But the damage was done. Marcus's face twisted with rage. "You think your money makes you better than me? You abandoned her when she was pregnant." "I never knew about Danny," Lucas replied, standing despite his lawyer's warning look. "If I had known, I would have been there every single day." The raw honesty in his voice made the courtroom fall silent. Judge Chun looked between the three adults, then at the empty chair where Danny should have been sitting. "Where is the child in question?" Marcus's lawyer shuffled papers nervously. "He's in protective custody, given the volatile situation." "Protective custody?" Ava's voice broke. "You took my son and didn't tell me where he is?" Lucas moved instinctively toward Marcus, but court security stepped forward. Judge Chen's voice cut through the tension like ice. "Mr. Williams, if you've removed this child without proper authorization, You're in contempt of court and possibly facing kidnapping charges. Marcus's smug expression faltered for the first time. "Where is Danny?" the judge demanded. But Marcus just smiled, and that smile chilled everyone in the room. The manila envelope arrived at Lucas's office that evening, delivered by a courier who disappeared before security could ask questions. Inside were photographs that made Lucas's blood run cold. Images of him entering Ava's apartment building, pictures of their kiss through her kitchen window, a photo of Danny walking to school, circled in red marker, and worst of all, a picture of Lucas's sister Emma dropping her own children off at their private school in Manhattan. The message was clear. Marcus could reach anyone Lucas cared about. A single sheet of paper fell from the envelope with handwritten words. "Drop the custody case or everyone you love pays the price. You have 24 hours. Lucas's hands shook as he called Ava. "Are you somewhere safe?" "I'm at my sister's house across town." "Lucas, I can't find Danny anywhere. The school says Marcus picked him up with official custody papers, but I never signed anything." The desperation in her voice nearly broke him. "I'm coming to get you." "No," Ava said quickly. "Marcus is having you followed. He showed me pictures. Lucas, he knows where you live, where you work, where your sister lives." Lucas felt walls closing in around him. His success, his wealth, his carefully built life. None of it mattered if he couldn't protect his family. That night, Lucas sat in his penthouse apartment, studying the photographs under a magnifying glass. Something felt wrong about them. Too perfect, too convenient. His phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. "Hello, Daddy." The voice was young, scared, but trying to sound brave. "Danny?" Lucas's heart stopped. "The man said I could call you once. He said you're my real father. Is that true?" Tears burned Lucas's eyes. "Yes, son. I'm your father, and I'm going to get you home." "I am scared. The room is dark, and it smells funny. There's no windows." Before Lucas could respond, Marcus's voice came on the line. "Touching reunion. Drop the custody case tomorrow, or the boy stays disappeared. And Lucas? If you involve the police, you'll never see him again." The line went dead. Lucas stared at his phone, rage and terror warring in his chest. Every instinct screamed at him to call the FBI, to use his connections, to turn the city upside down looking for his son. But one wrong move could cost Danny everything. His phone rang again. This time it was Ava. "I just got pictures of Danny tied to a chair," she sobbed. "Marcus says if we don't withdraw from court tomorrow, he'll disappear with Danny forever. He has fake passports, Lucas. He's been planning this." Lucas made a decision that went against every fiber of his being. "We're withdrawing the case." "But Danny..." "Trust me," Lucas said, his voice deadly calm. "We're going to get our son back. But we're not playing by Marcus's rules anymore." Outside his window, the city lights twinkled like fallen stars. But somewhere in those lights, his 8-year-old son was alone and afraid. Marcus had made one critical mistake. He'd threatened Lucas Harrington's child, and that was a war Marcus couldn't win. The revelation came from the last person Lucas expected. Dr. Patricia Santos, Danny's pediatrician, called Lucas at midnight with information that changed everything. Her voice trembled through the phone, heavy with guilt and fear. "Mr. Harrington, I need to tell you something about Marcus Williams. I should have spoken up years ago." Lucas paced his apartment, every nerve on edge. "What about him?" "He's been bringing Danny in for visits, claiming the boy was accident-prone. Bruises, a broken wrist last year, unexplained injuries. I documented everything, but Marcus always had explanations that sounded reasonable." Ice formed in Lucas's veins. "You think he was hurting Danny?" "I reported my concerns to Child Services twice. Both times, the reports disappeared. Marcus has a friend there, someone who makes problems go away." Lucas felt sick. His son had been suffering while he lived in ignorance, building an empire that meant nothing compared to one small boy's safety. "There's more," Dr. Santos continued. "Marcus isn't working alone. He mentioned a business partner, someone with access to legal documents and court records. I think someone inside the family court system is helping him." The pieces clicked together in Lucas's mind. The custody papers that appeared overnight. The judge's assistant, who kept avoiding eye contact. The court security guard who'd been watching him too closely. Who's helping him? Lucas demanded. I don't know for certain. But Mr. Harrington, there's something else. Marcus brought Danny in last month for a routine checkup. That wasn't routine at all. He had me draw blood for what he called allergy testing. But I think he was planning to fake a DNA test. Lucas's mind raced. Marcus had been planning this custody grab for months, maybe years. The divorce, the missing reports, the convenient legal roadblocks, it was all orchestrated. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stop digging or the boy pays. They were watching him, listening to his calls. Lucas grabbed his keys and headed for the door, then stopped. If Marcus had people inside the court system, he might have connections everywhere. Police, judges, even private security firms. But Lucas had something Marcus didn't expect. Resources that existed outside traditional channels. He made a call to Jake Morrison, a former Navy SEAL who now ran a private investigation firm that specialized in cases the government couldn't touch. Jake, I need a favor. Off the books, cash only. What kind of favor? The kind that saves a child's life. An hour later, Jake sat in Lucas's apartment, studying the photographs and documents spread across the dining table. Your boy Marcus is small time, Jake said, his voice gravelly from years of smoking. But he's connected to someone bigger. These photographs? Professional quality. This operation? It took planning, money, and inside information. Can you find Danny? Jake's smile was grim. I've found people in places you can't imagine. But Lucas, when we find your son, it's going to get messy. These people won't just walk away. I don't care what it takes. Even if it means Marcus Williams doesn't walk away at all. Lucas met his eyes without flinching, especially if it means that. Outside, storm clouds gathered over the city, and somewhere in the darkness, an 8-year-old boy waited for his father to find him. The hunt was about to begin. The call that changed everything came at 3 a.m. Lucas's phone jolted him from restless sleep, Jake's voice urgent and strained. We found him. But Lucas, it's bad. Where is he? County General Hospital, emergency room. Marcus panicked when Danny got sick and dumped him at the ER. The kid's got appendicitis, needs surgery now. Lucas was dressed and moving before Jake finished talking. His hands shook as he drove through empty city streets, every red light feeling like an eternity. The hospital's fluorescent lights felt harsh and unforgiving. Lucas found Ava in the surgical waiting room, her face streaked with tears, still wearing the same clothes from 2 days ago. They won't let me sign the consent forms, she whispered when she saw him. Marcus is still listed as Danny's legal guardian. They need his permission for surgery. Where is he? Gone. The security cameras show him carrying Danny in, then leaving through the back exit. He abandoned our son when Danny needed him most. Lucas felt something break inside his chest. His child was upstairs, scared and in pain, while bureaucracy and legal paperwork threatened his life. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, the surgeon, approached with clipboards and grim efficiency. Mr. Harrington, I understand you're the biological father. The boy's appendix is close to rupturing. We need surgical consent immediately, or we could lose him. I'll sign anything, Lucas said without hesitation. Sir, legally, I need consent from the custodial parent. Mr. Williams left contact information, but he's not answering his phone. Lucas pulled out his checkbook. How much does this hospital need? New wing? Research funding? I'll write the check right now. Dr. Warren's expression softened. Mr. Harrington, this isn't about money. This is about saving your son's life. If you'll take legal responsibility, I'll perform the surgery. Done. As they wheeled Danny into surgery, Lucas got one glimpse of his son's pale face through the window. Danny's eyes opened briefly, finding his father through the glass. Dad, he whispered, the word carrying 8 years of questions and hope. I'm here, Lucas said, pressing his hand against the window. I'm not going anywhere. The surgery took 3 hours. Lucas and Ava sat in silence, her hand eventually finding his. The touch was electric, comforting, and completely right. I'm sorry, she whispered, for not telling you about Danny. For letting Marcus hurt him. For all of it. Lucas squeezed her fingers. We'll figure it out. All of it. together. When Dr. Warren emerged, her smile told them everything. Danny's going to be fine. The surgery went perfectly. He's asking for his mom and dad. They rushed to the recovery room, where Danny lay surrounded by machines, but his eyes were alert and focused. "You came," Danny said to Lucas, his voice small but strong. "I'll always come for you," Lucas replied, taking his son's hand. "From now on, nothing keeps us apart." Danny looked between his parents, something wise and knowing in his 8-year-old eyes. "Are you going to marry Mom?" Ava blushed, but Lucas smiled. "Would you like that?" Danny's grin was pure sunshine. "Yeah, then we'd be a real family." Outside the hospital room, storm clouds were clearing, and the first hints of dawn painted the sky gold. For the first time in days, hope felt possible. Lucas stared at the security footage on his laptop screen, his jaw clenched tight. There was Marcus, clear as day, sneaking around the Harrington Industries parking garage at 2 a.m. 3 nights ago. The timestamp showed exactly when someone had planted the listening device in Lucas's office. "Got you, you piece of trash," Lucas whispered. "Have you ever watched someone you trusted completely destroy everything you built?" Because what Lucas discovered next would shock even the most experienced investigators. His private investigator, Mike Torres, knocked on the office door. "Lucas, you need to see this financial report. Your ex-business partner didn't just steal company secrets. He's been siphoning money from your charity foundation for 2 years." The numbers on the screen made Lucas's blood boil. Marcus had stolen over $3 million meant for underprivileged kid scholarships. Money that could have changed thousands of lives, gone to fund his gambling addiction and expensive lifestyle. "This ends tonight," Lucas said, grabbing his phone. Within hours, Lucas had assembled his legal team, contacted the FBI's white-collar crime division, and prepared a counterattack that would leave Marcus with nothing. But the most satisfying call was to Ava. "We got him," Lucas said when she answered. "What do you mean?" "Marcus has been embezzling from my charity foundation. The FBI is issuing arrest warrants tomorrow morning. He won't be bothering you or Danny ever again." Ava's voice broke with relief. "Are you serious? It's really over?" "Almost. I need you to pack some bags tonight. You and Danny are coming to stay with me until this whole thing settles down. I'm not taking any chances with your safety." That evening, as Ava tucked Danny into the guest bedroom of Lucas's penthouse, she found Lucas standing on the balcony overlooking the city lights. "Thank you," she whispered, wrapping her arms around him from behind. He turned in her embrace, pulling her closer. "You don't have to thank me for protecting my family." Their kiss was different this time. Not desperate or forbidden, but certain. Like coming home after a long journey. "I have something to tell you," Lucas said, his forehead touching hers. "What?" "I bought a house. A real house, not this cold penthouse. It has a big backyard for Danny, a swing set, and a tree house. I want us to be a real family, Ava, all 3 of us." Tears streamed down her face. "Lucas, you don't have to answer tonight. Just think about it. Think about us." But as they held each other under the stars, neither of them noticed the black sedan parked across the street. Inside, a man with a telephoto lens was taking pictures, preparing to deliver them to someone who would pay handsomely for evidence of Lucas Harrington's personal life. The game wasn't over yet. Do you think love can really conquer everything? Because what happened next would test Lucas and Ava's relationship in ways they never expected. At 6 a.m., Lucas's phone exploded with notifications. Text messages, missed calls, and news alerts flooded his screen. His heart dropped as he read the headline. "Tech billionaire's secret son scandal rocks Silicon Valley." The article contained intimate photos of him, Ava, and Danny at the park, alongside fabricated quotes and twisted facts. Someone had leaked everything to the press, painting Ava as a gold digger and Danny as a meal ticket. "This is bad," his publicist, Jennifer, said over the phone. "The board is meeting in an hour. Stock prices are already dropping." Lucas found Ava in the kitchen, staring at her phone with tears in her eyes. "They're calling me terrible names," she whispered. "They're saying I trapped you, that I'm using Danny to get your money. Have you ever had your most private moments displayed for the world to judge?" Because what Lucas discovered about who leaked the story would leave you speechless. Pack your bags, Lucas said firmly. We're leaving town until this blows over. No, Ava's voice was stronger than he expected. I'm not running anymore, Lucas. I've been running from problems my whole life. It's time to face this head on. At the Harrington Industries building, protesters had gathered outside. Signs reading "Deadbeat Dad" and "Corporate Corruption" waved in the morning air as Lucas pushed through the crowd. Inside the boardroom, his business partners were already plotting his removal. Lucas, this scandal is destroying our reputation, said board member Richard Stevens. We need you to step down temporarily while this gets sorted out. And who suggested that idea, Richard? Lucas asked calmly. The room fell silent. Because I know exactly who leaked those photos. My security team traced the anonymous tip back to an email account registered to someone very familiar. Lucas's assistant wheeled in a projector screen showing email records and financial transactions. Marcus Williams received $50,000 from someone in this room 3 days ago, the same day those photos were taken. All eyes turned to Richard Stevens, whose face had gone white. You've been feeding Marcus information for months, haven't you, Richard? That's how he knew about my business trips, my meeting schedules, everything. I don't know what you're talking about, Richard stammered. The FBI does. They arrested Marcus 2 hours ago, and he's already talking. Corporate espionage carries a 10-year prison sentence. Richard, was it worth it? Security guards entered the room as Richard was led away in handcuffs. Anyone else want to question my leadership? Lucas asked the remaining board members. Meanwhile, at her apartment, Ava was packing when she heard a car door slam outside. Through the window, she saw Marcus walking toward her front door, his face twisted with rage. Her blood ran cold. He was supposed to be in jail. The doorknob rattled violently as Marcus tried to force his way in. Ava, I know you're in there. You think you can destroy my life and just walk away. With shaking hands, Ava grabbed her phone and dialed 911, but Marcus had already found another way in. What happens when a desperate man has nothing left to lose? The police sirens wailed outside Ava's apartment as she crouched behind her kitchen counter, heart pounding. Marcus had smashed the back door glass and was searching the rooms, calling her name like a madman. You can't hide forever, Ava. You destroyed everything. Through the chaos, Ava's phone buzzed with a text from Lucas. On my way. Stay hidden. Have you ever been trapped with nowhere to run? Because what Ava did next showed courage she didn't know she had. When Marcus finally found her in the kitchen, his eyes were wild with fury and desperation. You and your rich boyfriend think you can ruin me? Take my son away from me. Danny was never your son, Ava said, standing up slowly, her voice steadier than she felt. You knew it, and I knew it, but you used him anyway. I raised that boy for 3 years. You scared that boy for 3 years. There's a difference. Before Marcus could respond, the front door burst open. Police officers flooded in with weapons drawn. Freeze! Get on the ground. As Marcus was arrested for breaking and entering, Ava collapsed into the arms of Lucas, who had arrived with the police. It's over, he whispered into her hair. He can't hurt you anymore. 2 weeks later, Ava sat in the law library at Georgia State University, surrounded by books and legal documents. The dean of the law school, Professor Williams, had agreed to meet with her about returning to finish her degree. Ms. Monroe, your academic record from before was exceptional, but it's been over 15 years. Are you prepared for the challenge? I've been preparing my whole life for this challenge, Ava replied. I may have taken a detour, but I never stopped believing in justice. That evening, Lucas found her at his kitchen table, law books spread everywhere, furiously taking notes. How's it going, counselor? He asked, kissing the top of her head. Don't call me that yet. I still have 2 years of school and the bar exam. I believe in you. Danny believes in you too. As if summoned, Danny appeared in his pajamas, rubbing sleepy eyes. Mom, are you going to be a real lawyer like on TV? Maybe someday, baby. Will you help people who can't help themselves? Ava's eyes filled with tears. That's exactly what I want to do. Lucas pulled both of them into his arms. I have a confession to make. What now? Ava laughed. I may have already donated money to establish the Ava Monroe Scholarship Fund for single mothers returning to law school. Lucas Harrington, you didn't. I did, and I'm not sorry. The world needs more lawyers like you're going to be. Looking at her boys, one biological, one chosen, Ava realized something powerful. Dreams don't have expiration dates. Do you believe it's never too late to chase your dreams? Because Ava's transformation was just beginning. 6 months later, Ava stood in a courtroom wearing her first real business suit in 20 years, arguing her practice case in front of actual judges. Lucas sat in the gallery with Danny, both beaming with pride. "Your Honor," Ava said confidently, "justice delayed is not justice denied when the delay serves to protect the innocent and hold the powerful accountable." The judges nodded approvingly as Ava presented her case with the passion and precision of someone who had lived through injustice and survived to fight it. After court, the three of them celebrated at Danny's favorite ice cream shop. "Mom, you were like a superhero in there," Danny said, chocolate chip ice cream covering his chin. "What kind of superhero?" Lucas asked, grinning. "The kind that uses words instead of punches to fight bad guys." That evening, as they walk along the beach near Lucas's new house, the one with the big backyard and tree house, Lucas stopped suddenly. "I have something for both of you," he said, pulling out 2 small boxes. Have you ever witnessed a moment that changes everything? Because what Lucas was about to reveal would surprise even his closest friends. He knelt down and opened the first box for Danny. Inside was a silver chain with a pendant that read Dad. "Danny, I know I missed the first 8 years of your life, but I promise I'll be there for every important moment from now on. Will you let me adopt you officially? Make you a Harrington?" Danny threw his arms around Lucas's neck. "Does that mean I can call you Dad instead of Lucas?" "Only if you want to." "I want to. Dad, Dad, Dad." Danny shouted to the ocean waves. Then Lucas turned to Ava with the second box. Inside was the most beautiful diamond ring she had ever seen. Not flashy or enormous, but perfect. "Ava Monroe, you've been the love of my life since we were kids sharing sandwiches on that playground. I lost you once, and I refuse to lose you again. Will you marry me?" The tears came before she could stop them. "Lucas, are you sure? The media attention, the scrutiny, all the complications that come with your life. I don't care about any of that. I care about waking up next to you every morning and tucking Danny in every night. I care about being a family." "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, yes, yes." As Lucas slipped the ring on her finger, Danny cheered and ran circles around in the sand. But their celebration was interrupted by Lucas's phone buzzing with an urgent message from his assistant. "What is it?" Ava asked, seeing his expression change. "There's been a development with Marcus. His lawyer wants to make a deal." "What kind of deal?" "He's offering to confess to everything. The embezzlement, the stalking, the corporate espionage, in exchange for visitation rights with Danny." Ava's happiness crashed like a wave hitting rocks. "Over my dead body." That's what I told them. "But Ava, there's something else. Something Marcus claims he knows about Danny that we don't." The ocean breeze suddenly felt cold against their skin. What secret could Marcus possibly know about their son? 1 year later, Lucas stood in the same private jet where it all began, adjusting his cufflinks nervously. Today wasn't just any flight. It was their honeymoon departure to Italy, and Ava was about to see the surprise he'd been planning for months. The secret Marcus had threatened to reveal turned out to be nothing but desperate lies. The courts had terminated his parental rights completely, and he was serving 5 years in federal prison. Danny was officially Lucas Harrington Jr., though he preferred to be called LJ. "Are you ready for this?" Lucas asked as Ava and LJ boarded the jet. Ava laughed, looking stunning in her white sundress. "I've been ready for 20 years. But as they settled into their seats, Ava noticed something different about the cabin. The walls were covered with photos, pictures of her and Lucas as children, Danny's first steps, their engagement, graduation day from law school, their wedding last month. "Lucas, what is all this?" "This is our story," he said, taking her hand. "From the beginning to right now." LJ was already exploring the cabin when he called out, "Mom, Dad, come look at this." In the back of the plane, Lucas had installed something incredible. a complete replica of their old playground from Dayton, Ohio. The same swings, the same slide, even the same picnic table where they used to share sandwiches. How did you? Ava couldn't finish the sentence. I bought the whole playground when they were tearing it down last year. Had it restored piece by piece. Have you ever seen love come full circle in the most beautiful way? Because what happened next will restore your faith in happily ever after. As the jet lifted off, LJ was playing on the swings while his parents sat at their old picnic table. I have a confession, Ava said, pulling out a manila envelope. Another secret? Lucas teased. I've been accepted to the prosecutor's office. I start next month, specializing in domestic violence cases. Lucas's face lit up with pride. That's incredible. You're going to save so many people. Just like you saved me. We saved each other. The pilot's voice came over the intercom. Mr. and Mrs. Harrington, we're approaching cruising altitude. Enjoy your flight. Mrs. Harrington. Even after a month of marriage, the name still made Ava's heart skip. There's one more surprise, Lucas said, leading her to the window. Outside, written in the clouds by a skywriting plane, were the words, "Thank you for waiting for me." Lucas Harrington, you are absolutely crazy. Ava laughed through happy tears. Crazy about you. Always have been, always will be. As they kissed at 30,000 feet, with their son playing on swings suspended in the sky, Ava thought about that scared girl in a cleaning uniform who had begged Lucas not to recognize her just 1 year ago. Sometimes the longest journeys lead us right back home. What are you thinking about? Lucas asked. I'm thinking about that little girl who used to dream about becoming a lawyer and marrying her best friend. She got both wishes just 20 years later than planned. Good things are worth waiting for. The best things are worth fighting for. As their plane soared toward Italy and their future together, the three Harringtons were finally, completely, perfectly home. Do you believe in second chances? Because Lucas and Ava proved that love doesn't have expiration dates, dreams don't have deadlines, and family isn't just about blood. It's about choosing to love someone every single day.